There were higher numbers than we ever expected of people seeking cosmetic evaluations during the pandemic. Even during the surge of the pandemic, when clinics were closed and we were all in lockdown, if one does a search of, on Google, for example, of searches for Botox, they had skyrocketed. And then when the clinics reopened, there was really this influx of people that were coming in with cosmetic concerns that they'd never had before.
Wow.
Face Value host Siobhan Marin joins us now in the studio. Welcome to Weekend Breakfast.
Thanks so much for having me.
How much of an issue is this?
It's huge. It's booming in Australia, which is why we wanted to do this podcast. And interestingly, there was a spike in interest during the pandemic and after the pandemic. Something that Dr. Shadi Karosh found was a term she called Zoom dysmorphia. So a lot of us will...
right, yes, of course.
Right, working from home, spending all of this time looking at ourselves in the screen. And, often it was with bad lighting and perhaps like underneath the chin, so it's giving us a double chin. And so a lot of people were noticing wrinkles that they'd never seen before because they're squinting and seeing themselves. And there was a huge uptick in people wanting anti-wrinkle treatments like Botox as well as filler. Which is fascinating. But, across the board, there's huge interest in a lot of cosmetic procedures.
Yeah. Well, it's not just Zoom as well. How much does social media play into it?
Oh, massively. Yeah. Throughout the podcast, I got to talk to people of different age groups. And perhaps one of the most interesting was with a 14-year-old who was saying that, there are girls in her class and her school who want to look like an Instagram filter every day.
14.
14, come
babies.
on, really?
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing, because I can totally understand this. I get this. I mean, and especially when it gets you at a very low point in your life. If you're feeling good about yourself, you're fine. But then if you get at a really low point in your life and you start going through these filters, you start to believe, this is what I should look like. I actually went on a little bit of an adventure on some of these filters. Let's have a look at this one that I did, this reality versus filter.
This is the reality and this is the filter. Oh, my. Hello. No, that is not what I look like. No.
But you could see how it just enhances you, doesn't it? That's the filter. And I think there's another one that I did too, and I found this one horrifying because it lightens your skin. I think we've got a picture of myself with it. There we go. Look at that. That is not what I look like. So how much does this, affect you, these filters?
Yeah, it's a huge issue. I mean, I know myself when I was starting looking at this topic and playing around with those beautifying filters, it's like it shows you a version of yourself that's a supermodel. And you think, that's kind of like me. Maybe I can look like that.
Yeah.
But only if you spend thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
And obviously the skin lightening is a really big issue.
It's huge.
And several people of colour that we spoke to identified that when they're using these social media filters, might lighten their skin, make their noses smaller, and basically anglicize some of their features.
Yeah.
Did you also look at the correlation between those filters and mental health and the way that we see ourselves? Because that has surely got to be one of the big emerging challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it stems from a place of insecurity. Oftentimes somebody might have been bullied about the way they look when they were young. And so they start trying to change themselves, but it doesn't really fix the root issue. And oftentimes you can cop more abuse. Natasha, one of the people that we spoke to, she said, look, I was teased for how I naturally looked. Then I started getting cosmetic enhancement, and now people say, well, you only look like that because you're fake.
Oh, wow.
So she's very clear that it hasn't solved all of her issues. She spent tens of thousands of dollars and she still cops abuse. And
I think we have a clip of Natasha as well. Let's have a clip of Natasha. Let's hear from her.
When you now know you can just fix everything that you don't like, that's when it becomes a bit of an addiction. It becomes a problem because now you're just like, I love it, but this little thing and this little thing. Now you just want to change every little thing. And that's when I think it gets a bit toxic for people that are into this type of stuff. So I'm aware of it, and I think it's good that I'm aware of it because I'm not going to let that consume me too much, but I can see why it can be a bit of a rabbit hole. I just want people to know that surgery is not a ticket to perfection.
Incredible
never
candor.
ends, does it? It just never ends, because you start to see every little thing that's wrong with you, or supposedly wrong with you.
Exactly. And Natasha was so brave in sharing her story, I think, because she's really honest. So she's had 2 rhinoplasties or nose jobs, she's had some filler, and she's also had a Brazilian butt lift, which is a procedure that is becoming increasingly popular thanks to people like the Kardashians, you know, think of that sort of figure.
Yeah.
But it's also really dangerous. It's been considered the world's most dangerous cosmetic procedure in the past. And so people are putting themselves at risk, but more than that, they're also, you know, spending so much money, so much time and mental anguish going into this, chasing an unattainable version of beauty. I mean, the Kardashians have a huge disposable income and they've built a business on it. So that's why they look so good.
Is there a risk that the genie is out of the bottle now, given I think the term you used before was the Zoom dysmorphia? Is this what we're used to now and it's a race to the bottom?
I mean, I hope not.
Yeah, me too.
I hope that we can sort of overcome it. But to be honest, looking into this, social media is really scary, how it's sort of messing with our perceptions of how we look, how we should look, and how others look. You know, if we're just seeing these sort of touched up, face-tuned versions of reality constantly, it's going to affect us.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if there's a way to tap out of it. I suppose I spoke to one philosopher in the UK who said that, look, we should just stop judging people. You know, if you get work done, you shouldn't feel smug about it. And if you don't get work done, you shouldn't feel smug about it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's less about what the individual does and more thinking, how can we change the system?
Absolutely,
The system is broken.
You know, and when you say social media has a huge part to play with it, again, I was going on that adventure and I found a couple of filters that I thought showed my true colours, particularly the greener side of me. There we go. You know, I'm a real climate change, anti-climate change kind of person. So
green
that's
with envy.
Yeah, and you know, the Yoda in me came out. But then I decided, listen, there's a no filter as well, and this is what I actually look like in real life. This is my face.
That is a lovely tiara.
This is
Wow, you could be cast in a Disney film.
I don't know why I haven't. But this is a really serious issue, Siobhan, and what you're doing here is throwing this spotlight on how cosmetic surgery doesn't really change you or give you the confidence that you think you can have if you change a couple of things.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, I had to wrestle with it myself. In the first episode, my producer was sort of saying, would you get work done? Yeah. And I think as a woman, you know, in media, like, you do feel as though you can't age. You know, you have to look a certain way for a long time. And I hope that we sort of rethink the societal pressure that we're putting on people, particularly females, to look a certain way. Yeah. And so it's been a pleasure to dive into this, and I hope it, makes people consider where they stand.
And giving people permission to not put that pressure on themselves as well, because that's the other part of that, the other side of that coin, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. We all do it, and it's scary that people at a younger and younger age are doing it and not just enjoying their childhoods and, you know, taking candid photos, but it's like, okay, let me put my makeup on, let me do a filter, and let me do 100 photos until there's one that I actually feel comfortable with. Yeah. But maybe we should just all embrace Baby Yoda a little bit more.
Absolutely, and the Disney princess. Yes. Siobhan, it's lovely having you here on the show. Thank you again for this amazing podcast that you've gifted to us. Thank you. Siobhan Marin there, RN's Face Value.